Oh, and down he goes! Right hand, left hand! And I don't think he's going to get up! I think it's all over! I think it's over! Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does! Oh my goodness! Somehow Fury has managed to get up!
If you haven't already, please also subscribe to us on Apple, Spreaker and Spotify. Just type in Brawl Boxing and you'll find us there. Thank you.
Thanks to Wow Hydrate, who've sponsored the podcast. They provided me and the lads with some of their protein and vitamin waters, along with their electrolyte drinks, which are the best on the market. Thanks for your continued support. We really appreciate it.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing Podcast. I'm Kieran McCourt, and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ram McLaughlin.
So, guys, we're very excited about today's guest joining us. Please welcome former two-time welterweight world champion Shawn "Showtime" Porter. Shawn, how you doing, mate?
Showtime, Shawn Porter.
By the way, we actually should put a disclaimer out. We tell all our American guests, Shawn, you probably might not understand us at times because we talk very quick. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, it's not okay. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. What time is it over there in the States?
It's 10 o'clock a.m. So I appreciate you guys for staying up for me. How about that?
Oh no, absolute legend, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I have to say, Shawn, I'm a bit disappointed. I thought after retirement you were going to come on looking out of shape. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought you had to put on about 30 kilo. You're looking in better nick than all us put together. What's out of it?
I'm working on it, man. I think if my life was a little different and I wasn't in the public eye as much as I am, then I wouldn't be getting up every morning to go work out. But beyond that, I got some other things that I'm working on, and I got to look good on the movie screens, right?
Ricky Hatton's an exception. Shawn, you've had an incredible career, but before we obviously get into that, we're a podcast based in Ireland, and we'd love our listeners just to hear about your early memories growing up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, you know what? Let me first say this. My wife and I were watching TV the other day, and I said, "I heard it's beautiful over there. You want to go?" And she said, "Yeah." So Ireland has been on my list of cities to or countries to visit for a very long time, and so I'm hoping to come over there, man. Maybe sometime this year. So you have to show me the ropes if I do.
We'll bring you out.
We'd be honored to have you, Shawn.
There's a place called the Devonish, and it does the best pint of Guinness you'll ever have. So even if you don't drink Guinness, we'll bring you there, and then we'll bring you to food if you like burritos. Better than Mexico City.
Yeah, really. My wife would love it. Would love that. She's Mexican, so.
Oh, don't tell her I said that then.
Okay. But, no. To answer your question, man, I've traveled the world boxing, and I've done a lot boxing. What I've learned is everywhere is what you make it. And so you'll get people who do not want to leave the city that they were raised in, the state that they were born in. And what I've learned is it doesn't matter where you go, as long as you make the best of it, as long as you're living your best life wherever you are, it's gonna be great, you know. So you'll hear from other people who are from Cleveland, and they'll say, "Man, Cleveland is one of the hardest cities to come up in. It's one of the roughest cities in America." For me, the side of Cleveland that I saw, I love Cleveland. I didn't have to experience a rough childhood. I didn't have to experience growing up in the hoods of Cleveland and worrying whether or not I was gonna live to see the next day. There literally are people, even to this day, that are from Cleveland and can tell you stories. My dad has some phenomenal stories, some crazy stories of his childhood growing up in Cleveland. I didn't have that. And then I spent a lot of my childhood in Northeast Ohio, in the suburbs of Cleveland, in the suburbs of Akron, notoriously known for producing LeBron James. As long as you're doing the right things and you have goals and all that kind of stuff, you can be from, a rough area, but make it through. I did, and so did LeBron James, as well as a number of others.
And Jake Paul, he's from Cleveland, Ohio?
Who was that? Yeah. So Jake Paul, again, the suburbs of Cleveland. So we always on TV will say Cleveland because people know that city. There's a city 10 minutes outside of the city of Cleveland where Jake and his brother and his family are from. So again, I don't really know about his childhood growing up. He seems to sound like he was bullied a lot growing up and through high school and things of that nature. It happens, but he was able to figure it out and make it through,
Just on that point, like everyone respects you a lot in the boxing world, what you have to say, and I know you're probably sick of hearing about like Jake Paul because we're sick of talking about it as well. But what do you think? What's your opinions? Is it good for the sport?
It's good for the sport because it puts eyes on the sport, and I think that people have to understand what they're looking at. They're not looking at world class. Everybody in the boxing world is so used to world class and used to seeing, okay, what's next for world class. We've never seen somebody not from our sport be talked about in our sport. And so a lot of people don't respect Jake Paul because he didn't have the amateur background. He didn't come up through the professional ranks having 10 plus fights before a world championship title. And yes, he's got millions and millions of followers and he's making those kind of bucks. But you're watching a guy who came from one entertainment field into this entertainment field, and he brought what he had with him to this entertainment field. That's why he's making the money. What I believe we should do is respect what he's doing, respect the fans that he's bringing to the sport, eat off of that plate and show that, okay, yeah, Jake does it one way. Here's a better way to do it in terms of world class, and this is world class. And I think that, everybody can learn how to promote better from watching Jake Paul. They can learn how to make more money in this sport because Jake Paul is doing it,
Yeah, 100%. And as well, like the point you made, he doesn't have to be doing it, which is, yeah, you have to admire that. Like he's millions in the bank, and
yeah,
there's a lot easier ways to make money than getting in the boxing ring, like, and getting your head punched in. So you have to respect it. Just on you as well, you obviously had a very, very come forward, aggressive, exciting style your whole career. It's what made you very fan friendly. Did you have that in the amateur ranks growing up, or what was your style like then?
I did. Actually, my very first fight, I'll give the long story short. Coming up, my dad taught me the basics of boxing. I'm really good with the basics. And my first amateur fight, the kid was throwing like 100 punches around. He's coming at me like this. And I was really good when I was young. I was making them miss. And I was like, just really basic, And after 2 rounds of that, I came back to the corner and my dad says, he's out hustling you. I think that you got to go out there and you got to fight him like he's been fighting you. If you don't fight him like he's been fighting you, you're not going to win. My dad looked at me, he says, you know what a thunderstorm is, right? I said, yes. He says, just raining nonstop, right? I said, yeah. He said, when you go back out there, I was 8 years old. He said, when you go back out there, I want you to get on him like a thunderstorm and don't get off of him until the bell rings. And that's what I did. I went out there and I won my first amateur fight. And I believe that the foundation of me having an aggressive style started with my very first amateur fight where I wasn't that aggressive. And my dad thought that, hey, if you're not aggressive this round, you might not win this fight, so that's kind of where it all started.
Shawn, you had like an incredible amateur pedigree. You beat some household names like Daniel Jacobs, Demetrius Andrade, Oleksandr Usyk. Some people don't know that. Unfortunately, he came up just short for the 2008 US Olympics team. Did that spur you on a bit in your pro career after that?
You know what? I think it did and it didn't. Do you guys know who Kelly Pavlik is?
Yeah.
So Kelly's from Youngstown. Youngstown is 45 minutes from Akron. It's an hour and a half from Cleveland. So I knew Kelly very well from an amateur. He was one of the guys I looked up to. And then I also knew his coach, Jack Lowe, from just, growing up in the sport. And I was about to have my first professional match. And I happened to be in Youngstown at a boxing match, and Jack Lowe was there, Kelly was there, and I'm hanging out with these guys. Jack says to me, "So you're excited to turn pro?" I said, "Yeah, man, I can't wait to fight everybody that beat me in the amateurs, and I know I had more of a professional style, and it's gonna work for me, and I'm gonna beat all those guys that beat me in the amateurs." He said, "Whoa, hold on, slow down, kid. This is before my first professional fight." He said, "You're a long ways away from fighting all those guys." And I didn't understand that. He says, you won't fight those guys for 5 or 6 years. He says, don't focus on them right now. Focus on the fight that's in front of you and then the one after that. He said, once you get a chance, you'll beat all those guys. I know that. I know you. You beat those guys. He said, but trust me, you're a long way from fighting those guys right now. So don't even think about it. And I was like really ramped up. I was geared up, ready to face all those guys. Like you said, I came up short in the Olympic trials to represent the U.S. in the games. And so, yeah, it did spur me on, but very quickly, somebody pulled me back and said, hey, you got to be patient with this thing. You got to take it one fight at a time. You got to learn and you got to grow. And eventually you'll get there. Obviously, I didn't end up fighting any of those guys, but it definitely gave me the energy that I needed when I turned pro. And of course, with the right guidance, I was able to do some pretty good things in boxing.
Oh, absolutely. That doesn't do it justice. Colin touched on it there. I just have to go back a bit because I have to ask you about this. I've read this probably 4 or 5 times now, like over the space. There's always months between. And every time it surprises me because I always seem to forget it. It's just so crazy. You beat Oleksandr Usyk.
I knew you were going to say that.
Like, what? Just explain
I
that.
knew you were going to say that. So as the amateur, I had kind of I had the X factor. I am I'm a hybrid athlete. And I know you guys follow football over there, so I'm trying to think of what position. I think I would be like a forward. Who scores the goals? Is that the forward?
Messi,
Yeah.
Ronaldo.
So yeah, so like I was like the forward. The forward can go back and play the defense, but he stays up and plays the offense and got the quick feet and is fast and all that kind of stuff and can kind of play every position on the field. That's what the forward is, right?
Yeah.
So like in boxing, I could do it all. So if you were taller than me, I was fast enough and quick enough and I had really good boxing ability that I could actually out jab you and box you from the outside. But if I needed to, I was very strong. And of course, shorter, I could get on the inside and I could bang you out and I could break you down. And I was breaking guys down as an amateur. If you were strong and powerful, I could use my movement and my quick feet and I could box you from the outside. It's like I always had the answer to, if I didn't beat you, I challenged you in the amateurs. And of course you saw that as a professional. And the fight with Oleksandr Usyk, he was tall, he was rangy, he was a southpaw. And I was trying to box him from the outside. And then we were boxing on points. And so the points were very close. But in the last round, I caught him with a big right hand and I backed him up. And that's how I won the fight. It was a really good fight. And I think it was one of those fights that boxing fans could pay to watch now. If I found the video of that, I think that everybody would be like really excited to watch it. It's only 4 rounds. It's only 2 minutes a round. But I think everybody would get their money's worth watching that one.
Surely someone out there has that video. Like, surely someone there.
I think I should try to figure that one out. I think we should try to figure that one out.
Or if not, Sean, if you did go down the Ricky Hatton route, you know what I mean?
I'm not messing with Oleksandr, man. Very happy for him, though.
Sean, you obviously touched on the thunderstorm story with your father. Do you know who installed that in your first amateur fight? You obviously never shied away from anyone. You always fought the best. You always see him. There's boxing politics that go on, but you never did. You never shied away. Did your father instill that early on? Is that why your mentality was like that?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, you pronounce your I's with the A. That's crazy. How do your lips make an A? When you see I on the paper, your lips and your mind tells you to say the A sound. How is that possible?
There's a part of the Joe Rogan podcast. He speaks about people from Belfast, but he called it Belfast because of the way we pronounce it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, those motherfuckers don't even speak English over there."
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, no, I had so many experiences as the amateur where the decision didn't go the way it should have gone, and we fought on a point system where the points were showed to the crowd during the course of the fight, and people could clearly see that I was winning the fight, but the points didn't reflect that. I mean, I went through it all as the amateur, and so I do think that at some point, as a professional, it was like it's like, even though you're going to be in this tough fight, and even though you may not get the fair shot from the judges, everybody in the stadium is going to see what's going on and what's happening. And even if you don't win this fight from the judges' standpoint, the fans, true people, the people who know boxing, they know what's going down, and who's really the winner of this fight. And so I always took that into the fights with me, understanding that, hey, if I don't win this fight, I'm damn sure whoever wins this fight, they're gonna come close to death fighting me. If my hand doesn't get raised, they're gonna know that they were in a fight that night. And so I think that, yeah, at some point these guys got to be willing to put their skills to the test, put their courage to the test, put their heart to the test, and not shy away from or shy away from a fight because of who the guy standing across from the ring is. I think that boxing is kind of coming into a era now where guys are going to start they're going to be willing to start, putting their records on the line, and putting putting it all on the line for the sake of the sport, for the sake of greatness.
Well, that leads me on perfectly. Just as you speak about that, in a few weeks' time, we'll have Kell Brook and Amir Khan fighting, which is probably 5, 6, 7 years overdue. I think that's why a lot of the British and Irish fans loved you, because you just mixed it with absolutely anyone. Doesn't matter, underdog, favourite, you jumped in there. Yeah. People get very annoyed about the Kell Brook and Amir Khan situation, because, as I say, it's way past its sell-by date, but it's still exciting, I suppose. If I put you on the spot, who do you think wins that one?
I think Kell Brook wins this fight.
Did he always win it in your eyes?
I know that this fight's been talked about for, oh my Lord, this fight's been talked about for 8 years, maybe. How long is this fight? Yeah. Longer than that, maybe?
Yeah. 8 years, 8, 9 years, yeah.
Yeah, 8, 9 years. 8 or 9 years ago, I think 8 or 9 years ago, Kell hands down would have won the fight. I think that Amir Khan's got a little bit of a glass chin, unfortunately, and I think that upwards to 8 years ago, he still had that same chin. Way back coming out of the Olympics, 2004, I would have definitely went with Amir Khan. Before Amir Khan got beat by Breedis Prescott, I definitely would have gone with Amir Khan. And even now, because of Amir Khan's speed and his boxing ability, there's still something in me that says he could win the fight. But I think that through the course of 12 rounds, I think that Kell Brook is too strong and too powerful for Amir Khan.
Are you excited about it still, or are you?
It's a part of me that's excited for you guys, because you guys finally get the fight that you've been waiting for a long time. And I think for you guys, for me, it will be kind of like somebody from New York finally getting in the ring with somebody from New York, or excuse me, finally getting in the ring with somebody from LA. I think you guys, there's kind of that bit of that rivalry that's coming as well, in terms of demographically where those guys are from. So I think that you guys over there, I think it means more to you than it does to boxing fans and to the mass general public of boxing in general. But I do think that it's going to be exciting, and I will be tuned in. I will be watching.
Do you think Amir Khan has any sort of advantage by training with Bo Mack and Terence Crawford?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'm not discrediting Bo Mack, and I'm not discrediting Terence Crawford, but this is what I do know. I know that you don't just you at this point, Amir Khan is who he is as a fighter. Of course, you can pick up techniques and people can teach you things that you may not have learned, or they may give more repetition to it, so it lasts with you more in the actual fight. But I got to figure that Amir Khan is who he is now, and when he gets in the ring, it's only a matter of rounds before Amir Khan is the Amir Khan that we've always seen.
The glass chin thing, one thing you have to say about Khan, apart apart from this fight though, is that he did mix it with anyone.
He did.
It just feels like he just couldn't handle the thought of losing like he would fight anyone. He'd jump in with Canelo, but he just didn't want to lose to Brook. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the similar situation with Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford right now.
For sure.
I have a feeling that right now, I think if I had to pick one, I feel that Errol, even way back in 2017 or 2019 is when we fought. I think even back then, I think he was just a little concerned that I could lose this fight to Terrence Crawford. I think for Terrence, I really don't think he has any concerns about losing the fight and as to why he wouldn't make the fight happen. I think that Terrence, he just wants to make sure he gets paid. As long as I get paid to do what I do, I'm going to go in there and do what I do. And that was my mindset. It wasn't, oh, well, I lost, so it's no biggie to lose again. My whole thing was, I'm getting paid to do what I do. How much are you paying me to fight this guy? Boom, that's what it is. Let's do it, So I think now those guys are getting to that point where they got to get back in the ring, or it could turn into the similar situation where like now a lot of people are like, well, they're fighting now, but I don't care now. 5 or 6 years ago, yeah, I would have been interested in seeing that fight. 8 years ago, hell yeah, I'd have bought the fight. But I think now more people are like, okay, they're fighting.
Do you have to sit on the fence when it comes to Spence and Crawford, or are we allowed to ask you about it?
No, I don't have to sit on the fence. Before I fought Errol Spence Jr., people were asking me who would win in the fight, Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. I said Terrence Crawford. After I fought Errol, who would win in the fight, Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford? I said Terrence Crawford. After being in the ring with Terrence, who's going to win that fight? I believe wholeheartedly now that Terrence Crawford is a better boxer than Errol Spence Jr.
Heard it from the horse's mouth. We've got it.
Yeah.
Sean, we've seen you as a pundit.
The crazy thing, though, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the crazy thing is people think that I don't like Errol Spence Jr. They think that because I'm picking Terrence Crawford, that means that I got some animosity with Errol Spence Jr. No, I don't. Who wins, Errol Spence or your Dennis Ugas? Errol Spence. Who wins, Errol Spence or Keith Thurman? Great fight. That's a hard one to pick. I'm rooting for Keith, but I think Errol might win that. I mean, like, it's not hard for me to tell y'all who I think wins fights, and it's not hard for me to take my bias out of it. But a lot of people think that I picked Terrence Crawford because Errol beat me and because we had a great fight that I could have won. There's nothing like that. I've been in the ring with both those guys. I know what I felt. I know what I saw. I think that Terrence Crawford will win the fight. And if I'm wrong, guess what? We got a great fight. Fight fans win. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if I'm wrong. So,
Sean, we've seen you as a pundit, and you're a great analyst of the sport. Obviously, you've started up your own podcast now. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Can I tell you more about the Porter Way podcast?
we're slacking here. Like we are slacking. We need to get to your level.
Yeah, I can tell you that you should get one of these. for your
We've got our own merchandise.
Yeah, I'm working on it. This is my merchandise. This is the Porter Way's merchandise. ShopShawnPorter.com. That is a real website if you want to get Shawn Porter merchandise. Beyond that, the Porter Way podcast, we started it right as the pandemic was like coming out and fighting started back. That was September of 2020, right after my fight with Sebastian Formella. And really, I worked for Fox, and I hated that we only talked PBC. And I hated that when I saw other platforms, ESPN, only talking about ESPN fighters, The Zone, only talking The Zone. The first meeting that we had with the guys that are on the show now, I said, listen, we're about to do this, and we do not pick sides here. We are talking everything boxing. If it's an amateur show that I heard about and this kid did well, and I got some way to bring it onto the podcast, we're going to talk about any and everything that's boxing. We're not going to be talking just The Zone, just ESPN, just PBC. We're talking everything boxing and beyond that.
Boxing?
Well, I will definitely shout you guys out this week.
Legend.
On the podcast. I'll definitely shout you guys out because this has been fun. If this was a shit interview, I probably would. I'd say good luck. But I'll definitely shout you guys out.
So,
on the
Shawn,
next show.
when you come to Ireland, does that mean we can do a sit down with you in our studio? We're in the process of buying a studio, so Ryan's actually funding it there. So whenever you come here, we'll sit down and do a sit down with you, right? And
we're ruining his holiday,
wife
like him and his wife going
joints.
to Ireland to explore. We're trying to get him talking about boxing.
Yeah, every podcast needs a money guy. So
that's not they're going on like I'm Eddie Hearn.
Raise your hand if you're the money guy. But yeah, we started that in 2020 September, and it's grown tremendously over the course of the last year, going into now almost year and a half, and it's a lot of fun. I love it. And we bring on other guests outside of boxing. So I'm hoping to get this to the point where even you guys do football over there. I don't know too many. Oh, I do know one football player. I don't know him personally, but I'd like to get to the point where this becomes more than just boxing, and the casual sports fan is tuning in. The casual businessman is tuning in. And so I'm trying to develop this bad boy in a way that this is a podcast for everybody, not just boxing.
You've got the same business idea as us, because we actually had on Doug Allen, the creator of Entourage.
Yeah.
We had him on the podcast.
Nice.
We've had, who else have we had outside of boxing?
We're having a few Premier League, like the highest league in England, like soccer players, you would say. We're having them on. It's just bringing in different audiences from outside of boxing, trying to get them to listen, and then hopefully then that they like the podcast and they stay and they keep listening, and then you continue on from there.
There you go. So that's what we try to do. We've had Meta World Peace on, or Meta World Center for Ron Artest, NBA. A couple of other guests we've had on, WWE, Big E. We've had him on. We're looking at having him on again. Hopefully next week we'll have him on the show again. So yeah, man, I think for me as a fighter, people know my story. They know that I played football and they know that I boxed. People get the story confused and think that I boxed, and then once boxing didn't work out, I played football, American football, and then once American football didn't work out, that I went and started boxing. It's not true. I started boxing at the age of 5, started competing at the age of 8, and with American football, I started competing at the age of 8, and I did both until I couldn't play football anymore. So. With that being said, I've always had an interest in other things other than boxing. So I want this the Porter way. I want to extend everything that I am to my viewers. And so I'm more than boxing. And I think that with time, people will understand that the podcast is more than boxing. Porter's more than boxing. And, everybody and everything that I'm connected to is more than just boxing.
Are you a Cleveland Browns fan?
100%.
Oh, no. Talk to me about Baker Mayfield.
Oh man, Baker was a letdown this year. I believe that teams game planned for him this year and they figured him out. I think that if he can't make an adjustment very quickly next year, that we should figure out a way to move forward with another quarterback. I think that he's got the intangibles to be great, but I think that he's also got some deficiencies there that are working against him, mainly his height. I think that has proven that it's proven to be a deficiency for him through the course of the game. So we'll see what happens.
What do you make of Odell Beckham leaving as well?
I'm
a big Giants fan, so.
Yeah, Odell, I think coming to Cleveland, it was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement. I think that he served his purpose from that standpoint. I think that he didn't really fit into our scheme, our game, which is run the ball first, pass second. And when you're passing second and then you can't find him, that means that he kind of doesn't belong, So
well, you got the best two punch in football, haven't you?
Yeah, he's moved on. He's with the LA Rams, and they're in the championship, in the conference championship now. So I'm hoping he gets a ring. I like to see that for him.
One last question. I know, sorry, used to I'm going off here about football, but would you play Dernis Johnson ahead of Kareem Hunt? and trade Kareem Hunt? I'd love to
No,
know.
I wouldn't. I think that Kareem, if Kareem's healthy, Kareem has, again, he's got some intangibles that just make him an X factor. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can make the moves. Not one guy's not taking him down. It takes multiple guys to get him down. I think that Nick Chubb has this special ability to have vision and quickness to get to those marks and make guys miss. He does it in a different way than Kareem Hunt, but I think that that's why those two are the leaders in the backfield. Dearness Johnson, I think, is definitely a weapon for us, but I don't think he's a stronger weapon than either of those two.
Shawn, this is exactly why you and Paulie Malignaggi are the two best analysts in the game. We had Paulie on a few months ago, and he was also speaking about football. And you both sound like you could also like easily do punditry for other sports. You just know so much, and you speak so well. So
I haven't learned enough about football yet to really talk it. But I've watched American football my whole life, so that's easy for me. I know some guys that are in football. Of course, my co-host Carson is he's really into football as well. So I love to have guys come on. I just don't know if I can personally give them the kind of conversation about football the way that I could an NFL player or even an NBA player. So I'm hoping to do that, though, bring on some more football content on the Porter Way podcast.
Was it a real possibility, Shawn, that we could have seen you in the NFL then if you didn't change your different career path? Were you that good?
I was good. I really don't think that I was good enough to be in the NFL in retrospect. Of course, I had aspirations of being in the NFL. If I was in the NFL, I looked at my guys the other day. I said, if I was in the NFL, what position would I be? And we all know that I probably would be a returner, kick return, punt return. I was quick. I was fast, and strong.
Me as a Tavon Austin kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully I would have lasted a little longer than him in the NFL. But yeah, somebody like that. Yeah, I was a hybrid player that could play a slot position, maybe coming out of the backfield, may not be fast or strong enough to hit the hole and be effective enough as an NFL player. But I was a running back in high school.
And they'd all want you there in case a fight broke out. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's what teams will be looking at now. They'd be like, yeah, let's bring them on, and at the least, if a fight breaks out, we know we got the best on our side.
Well, Shawn, we were all huge fans of you, and we were very, very, very excited about this one. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Before we let you go, Shawn, because us being Irish, can we ask you the question about Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano? Like, what you think, how it's going to go?
I'm going to give you my honest assessment of Katie.
Right.
The last fight that I saw was the first time that I watched her with intention, watched her to see, okay, everybody's been talking about Katie Taylor. Who is Katie Taylor? And I did not see what I thought I would see. She's fast. She's got good boxing ability. She knows boxing. She knows the right moves to make and all that kind of stuff, but she's not extremely fast. She's not extremely quick. She's not extremely sharp and powerful and goes to the body and all these kinds of things. She's really good. But I think that in the fight between her and Amanda Serrano, what I've learned about Amanda, she gets hit. Amanda doesn't use much defense. It takes Amanda saying, I'm going to be defensive in order for her to be defensive. And what I mean by that, there are people like me. I could throw a punch, and right after that punch, I make a defensive move. Amanda is offense, and I'm getting hit. I'll step around, but I'm offense, I'm getting hit. I'm stepping around, I'm offense, I'm getting hit. When she decides that she's going to use her feet or she's going to use her head movement, watch her when she boxes. There's no offense. When she decides to be defensive, it's just, I'm here, I'm stepping around. She's not offense, defense. She's one or the other. And that could get her in trouble with Katie Taylor, because Katie will let her hands fly. And Amanda, of course, will let her hands fly as well. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a close fight. I think it's one of the best fights to be made in women's boxing in a long time.
Yeah. And do you want to give us a prediction or?
Prediction, no. I would pick Amanda to win because I think Amanda's the busier fighter. I think that Amanda has a little bit more in her arsenal. And I just think that the right opponent, Katie Taylor, bringing the best out of Amanda, I think that Amanda will win the fight.
Well, you know the way you talk about.
Sorry, Ireland.
We're not falling out with you. We still love you.
You know the way you talked about LeBron in America. That's why
Yeah.
Katie Taylor is in Ireland. So I might have to edit that to make it look like skating. I'm just going to edit
That's
a few things
awesome,
about.
though, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Like women's boxing over here is not like that, and boxing in general. I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys in the boxing world that they talk about like they talk about LeBron. You know, so I'm happy for Katie Taylor to do everything that she's done. She a 2-time Olympian.
Yeah, or one Olympic gold medalist, but she should have been at the Olympics before. But there wasn't.
Right.
She was the reason women's boxing got brought into the Olympics, and then she turned pro.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
like,
And
She-
Sean, I know you
Done
touched on the
fantastic.
LeBron thing there, but see, after this episode, ours, you're going to be like LeBron James in Ireland, so you are going to have to bring your wife over here.
yeah,
We may get you over.
That's awesome. I will bring my wife 100%.
100%. Well, we're happy to be your tour guide, Sean.
Awesome. Listen, man, that's the best part of boxing for me, man. I got friends everywhere, and it's like anywhere I go, I always got somebody that will, make sure everything's good. So I got some guys now in Ireland that'll make sure my wife and I are good when we come over.
Absolute legend, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks,
You guys
Sean.
take care, all right?
Speak to
Take
you
care,
soon.
Sean.
Thank you.
Later.
White girl problems, better back in autumn. Every gift I try to get her, she already got them. Messing with the TA, wonder what she taught him. Work her way down, literally to the bottom. Where are all my best friends? How can I ignore them? Never gonna text them, I am too important. Look at what my dad bought, yeah, it was imported. He took a second loan, cause our family can't afford it. Nice guy, down to finish last defensive sport. Call her CeeLo cause she crazy and her arms are kinda short. Got a traffic ticket once, but she didn't go to court. And she interrupts my sessions every time that I record. So I tell her I got so much shit up on my plate, it's a buffet. Now we out in Paris and these women look like Muzzy. Superficial, she just needed combs like Puffy. You don't need to go, but I think you need to trust me. Come take a drink with me, forget